Take a look at this vast empire of ours on which the sun never sets. Canada, South Africa, India, Australia, New Zealand, the colonies, and the mother country herself, the nerve center of this union of nations. Our commanding position enables us to play a dominant part in world trade and the carrying of the world's goods. The size, rather than the position of England, governs our greatest national problem today. We are not a self-supporting country. We depend for our existence on the exchange of our manufactured commodities for the food and raw materials that we cannot produce ourselves. And for these we must rely largely upon our empire and our merchant navy. Here is the port of London, a symbol of Britain's commercial supremacy and her mastery of the high seas. Through these docks passes a greater volume of trade than through any other port in the world. Under the guidance of the national government, we have once more gained our rightful place as the greatest exporting nation. And now for a journey round the dominions in which we shall see the importance of the empire from the point of view of trade and employment at home. South Africa is one of our best customers. Her annual purchases give work to about 90,000 British workers. Orange growing is making great strides. More and more trees are planted every year. But her most important industries are diamond and gold mining, both developed by British engineers equipped with British machinery. No one can beat British beer, but South Africa makes wine to equal anybody's. Good health, South Africa. Now let us pay a visit to our great Indian empire. On the left lies Aden, our naval base, guarding the Suez Canal, our trade route to the east. India, with her vast area and enormous population, takes more of our manufactured goods than any other part of the empire and gives employment to as many as 130,000 British workers. Singapore, another link in the chain of naval bases, keeps watch over the Malay states. These colonies, by purchasing our goods, create regular employment in this country. The amount of rubber produced here alone is nearly twice as much as the rest of the world's output, and so forms a tremendously important addition to our empire resources. No, this is not washing day, just sheet rubber being hung up to dry. Among the other industries of the Malay states are coconut and date growing. The native puts a loop of cloth round his ankles and with the aid of this climbs like lightning. This chap doesn't have to wait for the fair and the coconut shies to come to town. He can have them for breakfast every morning. Or, if he prefers dates, he could have a good meal off this bunch. And now we must leave the Malay states and continue our voyage to Australia. This great dominion buys enough goods from us yearly to keep 77,000 British workers regularly employed. Here is Sydney, with its magnificent harbour and its great bridge, built by a British firm with British materials. From these orchards, apples reach England round about Christmas time, when our homegrown crop has all been eaten. They arrive here as firm and juicy as if they had just been picked. Their freshness is due to careful sorting and packing. And here is somebody who seems to like them. Australia sends us wine from vineyards like these, as well as wool, grain, and meat. The original inhabitants were the race of Bushmen with their boomerangs, and the kangaroos, now the Australian national emblem. Southeast of Australia, out in the Pacific Ocean, lies our good friend New Zealand, true British and proud of it. New Zealand has no desire to increase her trade with us at the expense of the home farmer. All she wants is preference over the foreigner. As we can see, one of her staple industries is wool and mutton on a large scale. In return for what we buy from her, she comes to us for almost all the manufactured goods she needs, and of these, over half are allowed to enter duty-free. In fact, New Zealand buys from us 3 times as much as from any other country and gives work to 40,000 Britons. Shearing time is about the most unpleasant experience in a sheep's life. This youngster looks a bit worried about it. The herds are so large that the roundups sometimes last for days. Outside the shearing sheds, they must feel rather like we do when we are waiting for the dentist. But it's soon over. The men work fast, they can clip 200 a day, and out come the sheep again, wondering what it's all about. Next comes the examination and grading of the fleeces by experts also working at top speed. Notice the up-to-date methods of handling the mutton. No time is wasted in getting the meat on board and into cold storage. And now we will travel on across the Pacific to Canada. Our trade with this dominion is considerably improving, and our export trade to her gives employment to more than 67,000 Britons. One of Canada's largest resources is her lumber industry. During last year, timber exports were more than doubled, a conclusive proof that the national government's Ottawa policy has had good results. These gigantic logs go down to the sawmills, sometimes by train, sometimes by river. Where the logging camps are far from the railways, water chutes are built on the mountainside and the lumber rushes down to the river. The watermen who see to it that these logs float downstream without jamming have an exciting time. Years of practice enable them to ride these rolling timbers out in midstream and jump from one to another. Wheat growing is another of Canada's large-scale industries. The vast central plains are almost entirely devoted to grain production and form an important source of our food supply. When we realize that if our wheat imports were by any chance completely cut off, our stocks in this country would be exhausted in little more than a month, we can begin to understand how vital to our protection is the unity of the empire. We have visited the most important parts of this great empire, the largest, the most powerful organization of peoples in the whole history of mankind. The aim of the national government is to open up for British goods the vast markets within the empire, because expansion of empire trade means more employment in our factories at home. We must go forward with this great empire policy, remembering that we are a great family linked together in a blood brotherhood of loyalty and service, and that by helping our dominions, we are benefiting ourselves.